And Nancy Cordes, who's traveling with the president. Nancy, what's the White House explanation for the full staff up that has now taken place from what was described as a one-on-one meeting? Now, you could imagine negotiations going on in which, if they get through that question of a ceasefire, now the Russians can have a conversation with the Secretary of Commerce, Secretary of Treasury. The full bounty of U.S. relationships might be laid before them. Is that the context in which this grouping is put together, or just how's the White House explaining it?
John, we've asked the White House that very question. We haven't gotten a response yet because both they and the Russians were saying until President Trump landed that this was going to be a one-on-one meeting. Now suddenly it is a three-on-three. As you can imagine, Ukrainian leaders and European leaders more broadly are probably breathing a big sigh of relief about that, because they've all seen what has happened in the past when Donald Trump has been alone in a room with Vladimir Putin, most famously at that summit in Helsinki, Finland, back in 2018, where President Trump emerged from his meeting with Putin, did a joint press conference, just like we're anticipating will happen today, and said that he believed Vladimir Putin over all 17 U.S. intelligence agencies that said that Russia had meddled in the 2016 election. Their big fear going into this summit was that Trump would be swayed by Putin, that he would be persuaded by Putin to see his side of things on a whole variety of issues, from Ukrainian territory to Ukrainian membership in NATO and the EU and security guarantees for the Ukrainians, and on and on. So the fact that Marco Rubio is now going to be in that room, Steve Witkoff is now going to be in that room, and that it's not just going to be Trump and Putin is probably a major sign to the Europeans that things are going to go in the way that they hope they would.
And I just want to remind our viewers now that you were looking at replay of the introduction of the two men, the reintroduction, the first time they'd been face-to-face since 2019 that we know about. And we are waiting on that sort of formal beginning of a meeting to happen, and we hope to see pictures of that shortly. I do want to turn to Samantha Vinograd, a national security contributor here at CBS News, who served during the Biden administration, to get some perspective, because, you know, Sam, it's been interesting to see how quickly the reshuffling has happened just in the past few hours of who's even participating. We know that the president's top military advisor, General Kane, has been added. He's got a lot of credibility, I am told, with the president. The Supreme Allied Commander is a statement, bringing him here to Alaska. I'm told he's got a very good feel for the fight in Ukraine. At first, the administration didn't want that military presence here, but then I'm told they thought it was best to have the war fighters here. What does that signal to you? Is that part of a flex? Does that signal to you that they're going to actually be part of a formal conversation?
Well, I will say, Margaret, having been part of summits at the head of state level in the past, the details on who's in a meeting often do finalize at the last minute. That's not totally unusual. Having these military advisors on the ground in Anchorage, I do think is a flex. I also think, to Nancy's point, it does send a signal that President Trump is allied and aligned, at least for now, with our allies in NATO, our allies in Europe. So that is a net positive. Having other advisors in the room for what was a one-on-one and now has turned into what we would call a restricted meeting, a smaller group meeting, is also a positive from a counterintelligence perspective. Having additional U.S. officials next to President Trump, rather than just a translator, will likely allow President Trump to be supported by individuals with information that he doesn't have, and for there to be a more comprehensive record of the meeting itself. That has been an issue in the past. So overall, the presence of these different officials is a net positive. And I will note that the presence of finance and investment advisors on both sides, both on the U.S. side and the Russian side, is probably viewed as a positive by Vladimir Putin, because he knows that investment and economic growth are a soft spot for President Trump. And so his ability to shift the conversation toward enhancing U.S.-Russia bilateral economic ties, which would include the lifting of sanctions and export controls, is likely something that President Putin views as a positive from a participation perspective.